I jumped, but I didn't die. I became a zombie. So my mom wouldn't worry. I try my best every day to pretend to be a normal person. In the morning, my neighbor, Mr. Henderson, saw me jump ramrod straight from the third floor. He silently helped me pop my fallen arm back into its socket and even reminded me, "Ethan, be more careful next time. Don't give your mother a scare." At noon, the Amazon delivery guy saw my bluish-purple complexion and secretly slipped me a blessed charm. "Dude, this is for my aunt's spiritual shop, fully energized. Stick it on your forehead. It'll keep your mom from noticing anything's off." In the evening, the community security guard, Mike, saw me hopping home and quickly shut off the security camera feed. "Kid," he said earnestly, "let's try walking home from now on. We don't want your mom getting suspicious." I looked at my mom, who was currently making me a special brain-boosting lamb stew, and fell into a deep, profound silence. My name is Ethan Miller, and I died on an afternoon when the sun was far too bright. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a cold, sterile morgue, a white sheet draped over my body. A single, clear thought emerged in my stiffened brain. What about my mom? I'm all she has. That thought was my anchor. It gave me the strength to sit up, my body moving in a horribly awkward way. It felt like a rusted machine, every movement of my joints producing a dry, cracking sound. I escaped and went home. My mom, Sarah Miller, opened the door. When she saw me, she froze, then her eyes instantly reddened. She pulled me into a hug, so tight it felt like she was trying to merge me in her own body. "Ethan, where did you go? The police said you, they said." She choked on her words, unable to continue. I smelled her familiar, comforting scent, but a strange, primal hunger stirred in my throat. I stiffly patted her back, forcing out 2 words. "I'm hungry." My voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping on wood. Sarah immediately let go, wiping her tears, a smile of profound relief spreading across her face. "Hungry is good. Hungry is good. I'll go make you something to eat." From that day on, I was alive again. Except this body was wrong. I had no heartbeat, no breath, and my skin had an unhealthy, grayish-white pallor. I couldn't walk properly. I could only keep my legs together and move in a series of short, stiff hops. The worst part was I had zero interest in human food. Instead, I found myself drooling over the nature documentaries on TV, specifically the parts with large brain mammals. To keep my mom from finding out, I began a life of meticulous deception. Every morning, before she woke up, I would jump straight down from my third-floor window to the small patch of woods behind our apartment complex to work the stiffness out of my joints. Today didn't go so smoothly. I misjudged the landing, and my left arm popped off with a sickening crack. I was hopping around on one foot, trying to retrieve my arm, when Mr. Henderson, out for his morning walk, passed by with his beagle. He stopped in his tracks, his gaze shifting between me and my detached arm on the ground. A complex emotion flickered in his cloudy eyes. He walked over silently, picked up my arm, and expertly aligned it with the socket in my shoulder. With a firm pop, it was back in place. "Ethan," he said, his voice low and serious, "be more careful next time. Don't scare your mother. Her heart isn't what it used to be." I nodded gratefully, a raspy h escaping my throat. At noon, Alex Diaz, the courier, came by with a package. When he saw my discolored face, he nearly dropped the box. He rushed through the delivery confirmation, then pulled a small, polished obsidian charm from his pocket and secretly pressed it into my hand. "Dude, your situation, it looks serious," he said, gesturing to my face. "This is a shielding charm from my aunt's New Age shop. Blessed and everything. Keep it on you. It should help your mom not notice anything weird. It's on the house, man. Just trying to help out a neighbor." I clutched the smooth, cool stone, managing another h. That evening, to conserve energy, I opted for my most efficient mode of travel, hopping. I had just bounced up to the entrance of our complex when Mike leaned out of the security booth, waving frantically at me. I stopped. He darted out and pulled me into the camera's blind spot. "Kid, how many times have I told you, walk home? You gotta walk," he said, the picture of exasperation. "If you keep hopping like that, your mom's gonna catch on sooner or later." I already deleted the footage from this past minute, But this is the last time, you hear? Seeing them all so worried on my behalf, a wave of warmth spread through my chest, even though my heart wasn't beating. I got home to find Sarah carrying a steaming bowl out from the kitchen. The strange, rich aroma immediately captivated all my senses. "Ethan, you're back. Come on. Mom made you a special lamb brain stew. You know what they say, like cures like. We gotta nourish that little head of yours." I stared at the milky white broth, at the perfectly formed brain floating within it, and fell into a deep, profound silence. So, the whole world knew I was a zombie. Except for my mom. Too. My mom, Sarah, was convinced I just had a strange illness. An illness that made me walk funny, look pale, and occasionally lose a limb. She tried everything to cure me. For instance, she believed my limp, which was actually the preparatory stance for a zombie hop, was due to a vitamin D deficiency. She bought cartons upon cartons of supplements and forced me to take them morning, noon, and night. The chalky taste nearly made my stiff tongue curl. She also decided my pale complexion was due to poor circulation and started making me kale and wheatgrass smoothies every day, based on some recipe she found on Health Blog. Every time I held that murky green concoction, I felt like a villain in a movie about to be force-fed a potion. The worst part was eating. I couldn't digest human food. Every time Sarah watched me with hopeful eyes, I had to force the meals down, then sneak to the bathroom later and regurgitate everything, perfectly intact. My stomach had basically become a temporary storage unit. "Ethan, you're getting thinner," Sarah would say, stroking my face with a worried hand. "Is the food not to your liking? I'll make something different tomorrow." I just shake my head, my throat making that dry, rattling sound. I couldn't speak. My vocal cords seemed to have seized up. Sarah just assumed it was a side effect of my illness, which only made her more compassionate. This well-intentioned misunderstanding felt like a crushing weight. One day, the apartment complex announced its annual neighborhood block party. Every family would bring a few dishes to share at a long table set up in the central courtyard. Sarah signed us up immediately, insisting that I had to go. She said I needed to get out more, get some fresh air. I was 100% against it. A crowded, social event like that was my worst nightmare. But I couldn't say no to the hopeful look in her eyes. When Mr. Henderson, Alex, and Mike found out, they held an emergency meeting. "Ethan can't go. There are too many people. What if someone with a big mouth says something in front of his mom?" Mike was the first to object. Alex nodded in agreement. "And with all that food at a potluck, Mrs. Miller will definitely get suspicious if he doesn't eat a single bite." Mr. Henderson sipped his iced tea and made the final call. "He has to go. You know Sarah. The more you try to stop her, the more she'll think her son is hiding something from her. He'll go, but we have to be fully prepared." And so, Operation Protect Ethan's Cover was quickly formulated by the three kind-hearted neighbors. On the day of the block party, Sarah dressed me in a new polo shirt and khakis. To make me look more normal, she even dusted some bronzer on my face to hide my pallor. The result was that I looked like a vampire duke who had just climbed out of his coffin. We arrived at the courtyard with a platter of honey-glazed meatballs. The long tables were already overflowing with a dazzling array of food. Sarah greeted the other residents warmly, then sat me down next to Mr. Henderson. "Frank, could you keep an eye on our Ethan for me? He's still a bit weak." Mr. Henderson patted his chest. "Don't you worry, Sarah. He's in good hands." He subtly shifted my chair closer to his, using his large frame to shield me from most people's view. A cheerful woman came over with a plate of slow-cooked brisket. "Well, look who it is. Ethan, are you feeling better? Here, try some of my brisket. It melts in your mouth." She was about to scoop a piece onto my plate. I froze. Sarah was watching me expectantly. Just then, Mr. Henderson let out a loud oof and clutched his lower back. "Oh, my sciatica. It's acting up again. Oh, the pain." Everyone's attention immediately shifted to him. Sarah rushed over to help, fussing over him with concern. Under the cover of the commotion, Mr. Henderson quickly snagged the brisket from my plate and put it on his own, then shot me a conspiratorial wink. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Round 1 survived. 3. The atmosphere at the block party grew more lively. With Mr. Henderson running interference, I successfully avoided several more attempts to feed me. He was like a culinary black hole, intercepting everything that came my way under the guise of, "I'll just taste it for the boy." I looked at his steadily expanding belly and felt a pang of guilt. But trouble always arrives when you least expect it. My distant aunt, Carol, having heard the news from somewhere, decided to show up. Carol was my dad's cousin, and our families had always been lukewarm toward each other at best. She was a bitter woman who loved to show off in public and gossip in private. The moment she saw me, she exclaimed dramatically, "Well, if it isn't Ethan, I heard you jumped off a building. How are you still in one piece?" Her voice was just loud enough for everyone in the immediate vicinity to hear. The air froze. The color drained from Sarah's face. That was the one topic she couldn't bear anyone mentioning. "Carol," she said, her voice turning cold. "Ethan was just sick for a while. He's much better now." "Sick?" Carol pressed on, her sharp eyes scanning me up and down. "What kind of sickness makes a person as pale as a sheet of paper?" "Sarah, I'm not trying to criticize, but you should be careful you haven't brought something unclean into your home. I know a psychic who's incredibly gifted. Maybe I should have him come take a look." At that, Sarah's expression darkened completely. The surrounding neighbors also started to look annoyed. Mr. Henderson slammed his cup down on the table. "Miss Patterson, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. Ethan is recovering from serious illness. That's all. We've all been watching out for him." "That's right," another neighbor chimed in. Young people bounce back quick. Carol pursed her lips and fell silent, but her suspicious gaze remained fixed on me like a nail. I kept my head down, my fingernails unconsciously scratching at the tablecloth. A wave of irritation surged through my dead body. I could smell the sweet scent of her blood, more alluring than any food. I had to get out of there. I stood up stiffly, trying to think of an excuse to go to the bathroom. And that's when it happened. A little boy ran by, holding an ice cream cone, not looking where he was going. He crashed right into my legs. My body's sense of balance was terrible. The impact sent me falling backward, stiff as a board. "Ethan!" Sarah cried out in alarm. Everyone turned to look. I'm finished. The thought had barely crossed my mind when a hand shot out from the side, firmly catching me by the lower back. It was Alex, the courier. He had appeared behind me at some point, a package in his hand. "Ethan, your delivery," he said with a sunny grin, stuffing the package into my arms and helping me stand steady. "Watch your step, man." He gave me a quick wink and whispered, "Mike said things were getting hairy over here," and called for backup. I clutched the non-existent package, feeling as though I'd just been handed a secret weapon from headquarters. Seeing Alex, Carol's eyes lit up again. "Hey, young man, you're out and about all day. You see all sorts of things. You tell me, does this look like someone who's just sick?" She was trying to drag Alex into it. Alex scratched his head and flashed a charming, gap-toothed smile. "Ma'am, you know, it's funny you should say that. I just delivered a package the other day to a family with the same situation. They said it was, what was it called?" He pretended to think hard. "Intermittent shock syndrome." He snapped his fingers. "Yeah, that's it. When it acts up, they look just like Ethan here. Pale, cold hands and feet, but it passes. It's a new thing, mostly in Europe. Super rare." He spun the tale so convincingly, even I almost believed him. Sarah looked at him, half convinced. "There's really such a disease?" "Absolutely," Alex said with conviction. "And that family told me, the one thing that triggers it is garlic. One whiff, and they're down for the count." As he spoke, he glanced pointedly at the bowl of garlic-heavy Caesar salad in front of Carol. Carol's face turned green. 4. Alex's intermittent shock syndrome theory temporarily stumped Carol. But she clearly wasn't giving up. The block party ended on a sour note. Sarah was in a terrible mood, silent the entire walk home. I knew Carol's words had planted a thorn in her heart. That night, I sat in my room, staring at the moon. Zombies don't need to sleep, and the long, dark hours were a form of torture. I heard Sarah on the phone in the living room. She was keeping her voice down, but I still made out the words. She was contacting the psychic Carol had mentioned. My entire body went rigid. No, I absolutely could not let some psychic come to the house. My cover was full of holes. In front of a professional, it would be blown in a second. The next morning, as soon as Sarah left to go grocery shopping, I hopped over to Mr. Henderson's apartment. He was on his balcony, watering his prized orchids. I explained the situation to him with a series of hoarse rasps. Mr. Henderson's brow furrowed, and he paced back and forth on the balcony. "This is tricky. Your mom is grasping at straws right now, and that woman, Carol, is an expert at fanning the flames. Just then, Alex came running up the stairs out of breath. Mr. Henderson, Ethan, bad news. I was just making a delivery and saw Carol walking into the complex with some guy in a cheap suit, carrying a briefcase. My non-existent heart sank. So soon. Stay calm, Mr. Henderson said, ever the steady one. Where's Mike? Mike's stalling them at the gate, saying they can't come in without a resident escort, but I don't think he can hold them for long. There's no time, Mr. Henderson decided instantly. Alex, here's what you do. He leaned in and whispered a rapid series of instructions in Alex's ear. Alex's eyes lit up. He nodded vigorously. Got it. I'm on it. Mr. Henderson then turned to me. Ethan, you go home right now. Get into your room, lock the door, and don't come out no matter who calls for you. Do you understand? Don't let your mom see you. I understood his plan. If I didn't appear, the psychic couldn't perform his reading. I hopped home as fast as I could, darted into my room, and locked the door. Not long after, I heard the front door open. It was Sarah. Her return was followed by Carol's shrill voice. Sarah, you're finally back. I brought Mr. Ambrose with me. Sir, please take a look. Has my nephew been afflicted by some kind of negative entity? A pompous, nasally voice replied, Fear not. Allow me to open my third eye and perceive the truth. I held my non-existent breath, my nerves stretched taut. The living room was quiet for a moment. Then I heard Sarah's anxious voice. Well, sir, what do you see? A powerful aura of undeath. Mr. Ambrose proclaimed dramatically. This dwelling is haunted by a century-old zombie. My body went stiff. It's over. He saw right through me. What? Sarah's voice was trembling. Sir, you have to save my son. Do not panic, Mr. Ambrose declared. I shall lay down a spiritual matrix and force the entity to reveal itself. I heard a clattering of objects in the living room as he presumably set up his matrix. Carol's voice was smug. See, Sarah, I told you. It's a good thing I brought him. I leaned against the door, my mind a complete blank. What should I do? Rush out or stay hidden? Just then, a series of frantic knocks rattled the front door. Open up. Community outreach. We're giving away free donuts. It was Alex's voice, amplified by a megaphone, loud enough for the whole building to hear. Who dares to interrupt my sacred work? Mr. Ambrose demanded indignantly. Ignore him, sir. Please continue. Carol urged. I can't. Alex's voice boomed. 1 dozen glazed donuts per household. Limited time offer. Ma'am, if you don't open the door, we're moving on. Sarah hesitated. Maybe I should just go see. Sarah, don't fall for it. Carol snapped. It's obviously one of that boy's friends. As they argued, a new, booming voice echoed from the hallway. Mike's. Whose apartment is leaking? Unit 501. Is your apartment leaking? The unit below you is flooding. Open up and let me check the pipes. Sarah, hearing this, grew anxious. My apartment isn't leaking. Oh, for the love of. A third voice, Mr. Henderson's, joined the chaos from downstairs. My brand new flat-screen TV. It's ruined. 501, you get down here right now. In an instant, the hallway was a cacophony of megaphone announcements, angry shouting, and dramatic screams. Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She threw open the door and rushed out. Carol and Mr. Ambrose, looking utterly bewildered, followed her out. I heard them all arguing chaotically in the hallway. Leaning against my door, my tense body slowly began to relax. I knew that once again, my neighbors had saved me. 5. The farce ended with Mr. Ambrose being escorted out of the complex by Mike as a public nuisance and a scam artist. Carol was so furious, she turned pale, pointing a trembling finger at Mr. Henderson and the others before finally storming off in a huff. Peace returned to our home, but my mind was anything but peaceful. Carol was a ticking time bomb. This time they defused her, but what about the next? Could I really be this lucky every time? Sarah's spirits were low. She didn't mention the psychic again, but a deep-seated worry was now etched into her features. She started taking care of me with even more caution. She bought me thick wool socks, saying my cold feet were a sign of poor circulation. She installed heavy blackout curtains in my room, saying my sensitivity to light was a symptom of my weakness. She even began researching various brain-boosting recipes. Lamb brains, fish heads, walnuts, making them for me in a relentless rotation. Watching her increasingly tired face and the new gray hairs at her temples, I was overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness. My existence was slowly wearing her down. Maybe I should leave. Once the thought took root, it grew wildly. I could find a place where no one knew me and just wait until my body decayed into a pile of bones. Sarah would be heartbroken, of course, but at least she could return to a normal life. I began to plan my escape. I couldn't take anything with me. My ID, my bank cards, it would all lead back to me. All I needed to do was jump out the window in the middle of the night and just keep hopping on and on until I reached somewhere far away. I chose a rainy night. The sound of the rain would cover the noise of my hopping. As usual, I drank the walnut smoothie Sarah brought me and watched as she went to her room, exhausted. I stood in the living room, taking one last look at the home I had lived in for over 20 years. On the wall hung a family portrait. Me, smiling brightly, my dad with his arm around my mom, his face beaming with happiness. Dad died a long time ago. It had just been the two of us for as long as I could remember. I walked to Sarah's bedroom door, silently knelt, and bowed my head to the floor 3 times. Mom, I am sorry. Forgive me for leaving without a word. I turned and began to hop, stiffly, toward the window. Just as my hand touched the latch, a hoarse, sleepy voice came from behind me. Ethan, where are you going? My whole body froze, solid as a statue. Slowly, so slowly, I turned around. Sarah was standing right behind me. She was in her pajamas, her hair a mess, her eyes bloodshot. I don't know when she woke up or how long she'd been standing there. Her gaze fell on my hand on the window, and her face showed no surprise, no anger, only a deep, desolate sadness. Are you leaving too? She asked softly, her voice trembling. Just like your father? Are you going to leave me all alone? I opened my mouth, but only a meaningless hitch came out. Is it my fault? She walked toward me, step by step, tears streaming down her cheeks. Is it because I'm useless, because I can't cure your illness? Is it because I'm too annoying, always nagging you? Ethan, please say something to me. Just one word. Please. She grabbed my hand. It was cold, rigid, without a single trace of a living person's warmth. Sarah's body trembled visibly. Her expression shifted from sorrow to confusion, then to dawning horror and disbelief. She raised her other hand and, shaking, touched my cheek. The icy contact made her snatch her hand back, as if she'd been burned. Your face, why is it so cold? She fumbled for my wrist, where the skin was smooth, with no pulse. Still not giving up, she pressed her ear against my chest. Silence. No heartbeat. Time seemed to stop. The sound of the rain outside, the ticking of the old grandfather clock in the living room, and the sound of my mother's increasingly ragged breathing all blended together. I watched the color drain from her face until she was as pale as I was. Her eyes, once always full of love and warmth, were now filled with a vast, terrifying understanding. She knew, in that single moment, my entire charade was torn to shreds. 6. I thought Sarah would scream, or faint, or, as Carol had suggested, treat me like some kind of monster. But she didn't. She just stared at me, a long, long stare. Then she raised her hands, still trembling, and gently, slowly, cupped my face again. This time, she didn't pull away. Are you cold? She asked, her voice raspy. I stiffly shook my head. You want to leave? She asked again. I nodded, then quickly shook my head. Tears, large and heavy, rolled from her eyes, splashing onto my cold skin without bringing any warmth. Don't go, okay? It was almost a beg. Don't leave, Mom. She opened her arms, just like she did when I was little, and hugged me. My body was as stiff as a block of concrete, but she held on tight. I'm not scared, she mumbled, her face buried in my shoulder. No matter what you've become, you're still my Ethan. As long as you're here, I'm not afraid of anything. Deep inside my dead body, something shattered at her words. I raised my stiff arms and, mimicking her, awkwardly hugged her back. That night, the two of us just stood in the living room, holding each other until the sun came up. Once the secret was out, life became easier. I didn't have to pretend anymore. I could hop around the apartment freely, and Sarah would just remind me, Gently, honey. You don't want to wake Mrs. Gable downstairs. I no longer had to force down food I couldn't eat. Sarah would scrape the plates into the trash and then discuss with me seriously, the brains from that butcher didn't seem very fresh today. We'll try a different one tomorrow. She even bought me a mini fridge for my room, exclusively for my special diet. To make my complexion look a little healthier, she learned how to apply makeup, patiently dabbing on a light foundation and blush for me every morning. My Ethan is so handsome. We can't let this illness get in the way of that, she'd chatter as she powdered my face. I'd look at the rosy-cheeked zombie in the mirror and feel a strange mix of absurdity and warmth. The neighbors in the complex soon found out the truth as well. It was Sarah who told them. On a sunny afternoon, she invited Mr. Henderson, Alex, and Mike over for tea. Then, calmly, she told them, I know about Ethan. Thank you, all of you, for everything you've done. The three men looked at each other, flustered. Sarah, we were just... Mr. Henderson started to explain. I know, Sarah said with a small smile, though her eyes were red. You were all trying to protect me, afraid an old woman like me couldn't handle the shock. But it's okay now. As long as I have my boy with me, I'm not afraid of anything. From that day forward, Operation Protect Ethan's cover was officially upgraded to the long-term project for guarding the happiness of Ethan and Sarah Miller. Mr. Henderson used his connections to get me a medical certificate for a rare chronic condition to handle any official inquiries. Alex, from some obscure corner of the internet, found a zombie's guide to self-care and would come over to help me practice controlling my cravings for fresh blood and work on making my body a little more flexible. And Mike took on all the heavy lifting for our apartment and warned every kid in the complex to stay away from our building because a patient who needs quiet rest lives there. My life settled into a state of unprecedented peace and harmony. Until Carol showed up again. 7. This time, Carol brought a man in a suit and wire-rimmed glasses with her. Sarah, let me introduce you. This is Dr. Evans, a renowned neurologist, Carol announced, a smug look on her face as if a psychic incident had never happened. Sarah was polite but distant. Carol, is there something you need? Ethan needs his rest. Of course I know he needs rest. Carol's voice rose. That's why I'm here. Dr. Evans is an authority in this field. It wasn't easy getting him to make a house call. Why are you being so ungrateful? Dr. Evans adjusted his glasses, examining me with a detached clinical gaze. Mr. Miller's condition is indeed highly unusual, he began, his voice smooth. However, our hospital has recently acquired a new set of diagnostic equipment specifically for these types of neurological disorders. I'd like to invite Mr. Miller to the hospital for a comprehensive brain scan. Sarah immediately grew wary. That won't be necessary. Ethan is stable right now. It's not a good time for him to be moved. Sarah, what is wrong with you? Carol snapped. He's sick. He needs treatment. You don't actually believe that nonsense the delivery boy made up about intermittent shock syndrome, do you? I think you've completely lost your mind. My son is not crazy. Sarah's own temper flared, and she pointed to the door. Carol, if there's nothing else, please leave. You're not welcome here. Carol trembled with rage. Fine. Fine, Sarah. Have it your way. I try to help, and this is the thanks I get. You keep protecting this thing, and see where it gets you. You'll regret this. Let's go. She grabbed Dr. Evans and stormed out. I watched Sarah's chest heave with anger, and a bitter taste filled my mouth. I thought that would be the end of it, but I had underestimated Carol's persistence. A few days later, a certified letter arrived. It was a court summons. Carol was suing Sarah for guardianship of me. In her petition, she claimed Sarah was mentally unstable and unfit to continue as my legal guardian, requesting the court to transfer guardianship to her. She had also submitted a pile of so-called evidence, including photos of my deathly pallor, she must have taken them secretly, and a preliminary diagnostic opinion from Dr. Evans, suggesting I might be suffering from severe psychiatric disorder. Sarah held the summons, her hands shaking violently. How could she do this? Looking at her ashen face, a cold fury, the first I'd felt since my death, surged within me. This woman was trying to take away my only family, to destroy the fragile peace we had worked so hard to build. I would not let her succeed. 8. The court date arrived quickly. Since it was a civil matter, the hearing was private. In the courtroom were just the judge, us, and Carol with her lawyer. Mr. Henderson and the others had also filed to appear as character witnesses. Carol's lawyer was a sharp, middle-aged woman who went on the attack immediately. Your Honor, my client is acting solely out of concern for her nephew, Mr. Ethan Miller. It is a known fact that Mr. Miller previously attempted suicide, which in itself is an indication of severe psychological distress. Yet the current guardian, Ms. Sarah Miller, not only failed to seek professional medical help upon his return, but instead chose to believe the ramblings of charlatans, delaying proper treatment and even verbally abusing the expert who came to offer assistance. We have reason to believe that Ms. Miller's current mental state makes her unfit to continue as Mr. Miller's guardian. She then played a recording of Sarah from her last argument with Carol, shouting, "My son is not crazy." Taken out of context, it sounded like the hysterical denial of a mother who had lost her grip on reality. Sarah's face grew even paler. When it was our turn, Mr. Henderson was the first to take the stand. Your Honor, I've been Sarah Miller's neighbor for 30 years. I know what kind of person she is. She loves her son more than life itself. Since Ethan came home, she's taken the best care of him. His condition has been getting better day by day. All of us neighbors can see it. Carol's lawyer immediately shot back. Getting better? Witness, please explain how a man with a deathly pallor, who moves with extreme stiffness, and who allegedly scared off a so-called psychic, is getting better? Mr. Henderson was speechless, his face flushing with anger. Next, Alex and Mike testified, but the opposing lawyer distorted their words with tricky questions until they too got flustered. Things were looking very bad for us. The judge looked at Sarah. Ms. Miller, regarding the plaintiff's accusation that you have refused professional medical treatment for your son, do you have a response? Sarah took a deep breath and stood up. My son, Ethan, does not have a mental illness, she said, looking the judge in the eye. He has a very unique physical condition. It's something modern medicine can't explain, but we have been using our own methods to help him recover. Your own methods? You mean like making him brain stew? Carol sneered from across the room. A low murmur went through the court. The judge banged his gavel. Order! He turned his gaze to me. Mr. Miller, as the person in question, what are your wishes? Do you consent to the guardianship of your aunt, Ms. Carol Patterson? All eyes in the room turned to me. I stood up. Before we came, Alex had given me a special herbal remedy from his aunt's shop that he claimed would temporarily restore function to my vocal cords. I cleared my throat, which had been stiff for so long, and spoke my first complete sentence since I had died. I do not. My voice was raspy and strange, like a rusty hinge, but every word was clear. I only want to be with my mother. Carol's face instantly soured. Her lawyer jumped to her feet. Your Honor, Mr. Miller's response may not be of his own free will. Given his delicate mental state, we request the court appoint a professional for a full psychiatric evaluation. This was their goal all along. Once I was officially labeled as mentally ill, my words would mean nothing. The judge frowned, seemingly considering it. Just then, the courtroom doors swung open. An elderly man in a white coat, with silver hair but a vigorous demeanor, walked in. He strode directly to our table and addressed the judge. Your Honor, my name is Dr. Peterson. I'm the Chief Administrator of City General Hospital. Perhaps I can offer some insight into Mr. Miller's unique condition. I was stunned. Mr. Henderson was stunned, too. Then he slapped his thigh in excitement and whispered, Dave, what's he doing here? 9. Dr. Peterson's arrival completely flipped the script. He wasn't just the head of City General. He was a titan in the field of neurology. His word carried more weight than 10 Dr. Evanses. Carol and her lawyer clearly recognized him, and the color drained from their faces. Dr. Peterson, the judge was also surprised. What brings you here? I was made aware of Mr. Miller's case, Dr. Peterson said calmly. I've also reviewed the diagnostic opinion submitted by Dr. Evans. Frankly, that report is deeply unprofessional and filled with subjective speculation. Dr. Evans, who was sitting in the gallery, turned beet red. Dr. Peterson pulled a folder from his briefcase and handed it to the judge. This is research from a new task force at our hospital. We are currently studying an extremely rare condition known as acquired neurorigidity, codenamed zombie syndrome. He was lying with the most impeccable poker face. Patients with this condition exhibit symptoms including hypothermia, extremely faint heartbeat and respiration that are undetectable by standard equipment, limb rigidity, abnormal skin tone, photosensitivity, and specific dietary cravings. All of these symptoms are highly consistent with Mr. Miller's presentation. He paused, looking at me with a reassuring glint in his eye. While the syndrome is rare, it is not untreatable. The most crucial element of therapy is not medication, but a stable, secure home environment filled with familial love and support. Forcibly separating the patient from his primary caregiver would only exacerbate his condition and could lead to irreversible decline. Dr. Peterson's words were delivered with unshakable authority. Carol's lawyer tried to object. "Your Honor, this is just his word against ours. How do we know they didn't cook this up?" Dr. Peterson adjusted his glasses. "My former student, Dr. Evans, can corroborate everything I've said. After all, it was his interest in this very research that led him to join our hospital, wasn't it?" Dr. Evans's face was now the color of liver. He glanced back and forth between Dr. Peterson and Carol, and finally, as if making a momentous decision, he stood up. "Yes, Your Honor," he said, his voice strained. "Dr. Peterson is correct. Mr. Miller's symptoms are indeed consistent with zombie syndrome. I issued my previous opinion because my understanding of this new field was incomplete. It was a misdiagnosis." He took all the blame himself. Carol stared at him in disbelief. "Dr. Evans, you." The judge's gavel came down. "This court hereby dismisses the plaintiff's petition in its entirety. Guardianship of Ethan Miller will remain with his mother." The moment the verdict was read, Sarah's tears finally broke free. She squeezed my hand, repeating over and over, "It's okay, Ethan. It's okay now." As we left the courthouse, Carol, like an enraged lioness, blocked our path. "Don't you get too comfortable, Sarah. You think bringing in some hospital director solves everything? This isn't over." "Carol," Sarah said, drying her tears and looking at her calmly, "what is it that you really want? Ethan is your nephew. Why do you insist on doing this to him?" "Nephew?" Carol sneered. "I don't have a nephew who's half dead, half alive. I'm telling you, Sarah, you embarrass me today. I will not let you get away with this." She shot one last hateful glare at us and stormed off. Watching her retreating back, that cold rage roiled inside me once more. Mr. Henderson came and put a hand on my shoulder. "Don't you worry, Ethan. We've got your back." He was right. I wasn't alone. I turned and saw Sarah, Mr. Henderson, Alex, Mike, and even Dr. Peterson, who had hurried to catch up. They were all standing firmly by my side. Behind me was a warm, fearless alliance. 10. After the court fiasco, Carol laid low for a while. Our life seemed to return to its new normal. Dr. Peterson prescribed me a bunch of placebos, mostly vitamin supplements, and had Alex deliver them regularly, using it as an excuse to check in on me. With the help of Alex's Zombie's Guide to Self-Care, I started doing rehabilitation exercises. Things like trying to control my body's rigidity with my mind, attempting more precise movements instead of just stiff-legged hopping. The results were noticeable. I slowly began to walk like a normal person, albeit a bit slowly and with my arms and legs moving in perfect, unnatural unison. I could even, with Sarah's patient guidance, learn to pick up a single peanut with chopsticks. Every time I made a little progress, Sarah would be as happy as a child. "Look at my brilliant Ethan. You're learning much faster than when you were a toddler." Our home was filled with laughter again. However, I knew the peace was temporary. Someone with Carol's personality would never give up so easily. Sure enough, trouble came knocking. One evening, Sarah and I were watching TV when the doorbell rang. Mike's voice came through the intercom, tense. "Sarah, bad news. Carol is here with a bunch of reporters. They're at the main gate, saying they're here to expose the truth about the zombie boy." The color drained from Sarah's face. My gut clenched. That crazy woman. She was actually resorting to the media. "Don't let them in," Sarah yelled into the intercom. "I can't stop them. They have press passes, and they're threatening to call the cops and claim we're holding someone against their will if I don't open the gate." Mike's voice was frantic. I could already hear a commotion and the sound of camera flashes from downstairs. Carol was using a megaphone. "Come and see, everyone. A monster lives in this building." A zombie who died and came back to life. He's not even human. Her words exploded in the quiet night. Windows slid open, and neighbors poked their heads out, murmuring amongst themselves. What's going on? Who's a zombie? The Miller kid? I thought he was just sick. Sarah was shaking with anger. She ran to the window and shouted down, Carol, are you insane? This is slander. Am I slandering you? Let them come up and see for themselves. Carol yelled back triumphantly. Let the reporters see with their own eyes what kind of thing your precious son really is. The reporters, like sharks smelling blood, started rushing toward our building with their cameras and microphones. Mike and a couple of other residents tried to block them, but it was no use. Mom, close the window, I said, tugging on her sleeve. My voice was calm. Sarah turned and looked at me. I gave her a stiff but genuine smile. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I had died once already. I had nothing left to fear. But if anyone tried to hurt my mom, to destroy the life we now had, I would not allow it. I went to the hall closet and took out the half-meter-long steel pipe Sarah used for plumbing emergencies. The cold metal in my hand made my dead blood begin to boil. 11. Outside the door, chaotic footsteps and Carol's shrill yelling grew louder. This is it. 501. See? She's locked the door. She has something to hide. Bang, bang, bang. The door shuddered under heavy fists. Open up, Sarah. Hand over the monster. Residents of 501, please open the door. We're reporters from City News. Sarah stood in front of the door, her body trembling slightly with fear, but her eyes were fiercely determined. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Carol's voice was dripping with malice. Let the police see what you're hiding in there. I gripped the steel pipe and moved to stand in front of Sarah, shielding her with my body. I looked at her, trying to tell her with my eyes not to be afraid. Just then, a gruff, elderly voice boomed from the stairwell. What's all this racket? Are you trying to wake the dead? Some of us are trying to sleep here. It was Mr. Henderson. He was in his pajamas, holding a large thermos, standing at the top of the stairs looking furious. You again, old man, Carol said impatiently. This has nothing to do with you. Get lost. Oh, now you've done it. Mr. Henderson slammed his thermos on the floor. This is a private residential building. You people and your cameras blocking the hallway are a public nuisance. Mike, call the cops. Mike immediately raised his walkie-talkie. On it, the reporters exchanged hesitant glances. They were here for a scoop, not a confrontation with the police. Carol got desperate. Don't listen to him. They're all in on it together. If you don't get a picture of this zombie tonight, it'll be the biggest missed story of your careers. Her voice had barely faded when the door to the fourth-floor apartment opened, and Alex's mother, a cheerful, heavy-set woman, tossed a bucket of water out into the hall. Oops, my hand slipped. The entire bucket of dirty mop water drenched Carol and the cameraman in front of her. An indescribable smell filled the air. Yeah, Carol let out a piercing shriek. Then doors on the third floor, the sixth floor, even the building across the way, started opening. Who's screaming their head off at this hour? Seriously, show some respect. My son has his SATs tomorrow. If you don't shut up, I'm filing a complaint. In an instant, the hallway was filled with the angry shouts of our neighbors. Some held brooms, others feather dusters, all of them glaring at the unwelcome intruders. The reporters were completely baffled. They had covered protests, disputes, and all sorts of conflicts, but they had never seen a neighborhood so united. The lead reporter wiped his face and said awkwardly to Carol, "Ma'am, I think there might be a misunderstanding here. We should probably go." "We're not leaving." Carol was hysterical. "The truth is behind this door. Break it down." No one moved. At this tense standoff, a voice that no one expected came from the back of the crowd. "Mom, I'm home." It was Alex. He was in his courier uniform, looking tired from a long day, and carrying a large box. He pushed through the crowd to our door, saw the scene, and paused. "Wow, what a party," he said, then looked at Carol. "Auntie, what's the occasion?" His auntie stunned everyone into silence. Carol was also confused. What did you call me?" Alex looked at her as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "You're my aunt. My mom's older sister. Don't you recognize me? It's me, Alex." With that, he moved to take Carol's hand affectionately. Carol recoiled as if she'd seen a ghost. What are you talking about? I don't even know your mother. That's impossible. Alex pulled a crumpled photo from his pocket. It showed a young woman holding a baby. Look, this is you holding me when I was a baby. My mom told me you always loved me the most. Everyone crowded around to look. The young woman in the photo, around the eyes, bore a striking resemblance to Carol. Of course, the photo was a masterpiece that Alex, a Photoshop wizard, had spent all night creating. 12. Alex's surprise family reunion left everyone speechless. Carol, especially, was at a complete loss for words. That's not me, she stammered, pointing at the photo. Auntie, how can you say that? Alex looked heartbroken. Mom was just talking about you the other day. She said you had a tough life, trying to provide for the family, and that's why you can be a little on edge sometimes. She told me I had to take good care of you. He delivered the lines with such sincerity that the neighbors' expressions toward Carol began to soften. So, she's just a misunderstood woman who's had a hard life. Auntie, did you have some kind of misunderstanding with my cousin Ethan? Alex changed the subject, gesturing to my door. He's my cousin. We're family. He just has a rare illness. How could you call him a zombie? That's so hurtful. With one brilliant move, he had transformed Carol's public expose into a private family dispute. The reporters nearly dropped their cameras. A messy family drama? This wasn't the headline they were looking for. All right, show's over, folks. Mr. Henderson stepped in to disperse the crowd. It's a family matter. Let them sort it out themselves. Let's all get back to bed. The neighbors nodded, lowered their makeshift weapons, and went back to their apartments. The reporters, seeing no story here, mumbled amongst themselves and packed up their equipment, beating a hasty retreat. Soon, the hallway was empty, leaving just us and a pale, trembling Carol. All of you, she sputtered, pointing a finger at us. You just wait. She threw out one last threat and fled in disgrace. The crisis was averted once again. The moment the door opened, Sarah rushed out and hugged Alex. You're a good boy, Alex. A good boy. We couldn't have done it without you today. Alex grinned. No problem, Mrs. Miller. Protecting Ethan is a community effort. Mr. Henderson came over, saw the steel pipe in my hand, and nodded with satisfaction. You've grown up, Ethan. You know how to protect your mom now. I looked at them, and the cold fury that had been boiling inside me slowly subsided, replaced by a gentle warmth. That night, I had a dream. I dreamt I was back on that afternoon, on the day I jumped. I was standing on the edge of the roof. The wind was so strong it was hard to keep my eyes open. Below me was a bottomless abyss. Just as I was about to step off, countless hands reached up from below. There was Sarah's hand, Mr. Henderson's, Alex's, Mike's, and the hands of many other neighbors I didn't even know. They caught me, and they pulled me back from the edge of the abyss. I woke up before dawn. I walked to Sarah's room. She was sleeping soundly, her breathing even. I suddenly remembered something she had told me a long time ago. Her greatest wish was to see me get married and start a family, and then she would travel the world. The way I was now, I probably couldn't give her the first part of that wish. But maybe, just maybe, I could help her with the second. A plan began to form in my stiff brain. I went back to my room, opened my laptop, and started to Google the 10 most beautiful places to visit in the world. Perhaps I could take her to see the world, in my own way. 13. My Take Mom Traveling plan received unanimous support from the neighborhood. Dr. Peterson used his position to help me and Sarah get all the necessary documents and visas under the official reason of seeking specialized medical treatment abroad. Mr. Henderson gave Sarah his entire secret stash of cash, insisting it was our travel fund. Mike promised he would watch our apartment 24/7 while we were gone, to make sure Carol didn't cause any more trouble. And Alex became my personal logistics manager. Using his global courier network, he arranged for special supplies to be waiting for me at every destination. Don't worry, Ethan, he said, patting a box marked perishable, keep refrigerated. Global Express delivery. Guaranteed fresh. On the day of our departure, the entire neighborhood came out to see us off. They pressed snacks and gifts into Sarah's hands, telling her to take care of herself and have fun. Sarah's eyes were red all morning. Thank you, everyone. Really, thank you so much. I stood beside her. I couldn't show much emotion on my face, but inside, I was overwhelmed. Our first stop was Paris. I went with Sarah to see the Mona Lisa smile at the Louvre, watched the sunset over the Seine, and stood with her under the Eiffel Tower as she leaned against me, laughing like a little girl. "Ethan, it's so beautiful here," she said. "I wish your father could have seen this." I stiffly raised an arm and put it around her shoulder. That night, I picked up a vacuum-sealed package of lamb brain for contact Alex had arranged. It wasn't as good as my mom's, but it would do. We went to Switzerland and saw the snow-capped Alps. We went to Italy and tossed a coin into the Trevi Fountain. We went to Greece and felt the sea breeze in the blue and white towns of Santorini. Sarah's face was filled with more and more smiles, each one brighter than the last. She seemed to glow with a new vitality. And during our travels, I noticed changes in myself as well. My body didn't feel as stiff as before. I was still uncomfortable in the sun, but it no longer felt like my skin was burning. I could even feel, in the place where my heart had stopped, an occasional faint flutter like a tiny jolt of electricity. For the last stop of our trip, we returned to the U.S. and went to the Blue Ridge Mountains in the fall. We rented a small cabin in a quiet town. One evening, Sarah and I were sitting on the porch. She was reading her travel journal aloud to me, her voice soft and gentle. "Ethan learned how to tie his own shoelaces today. They were crooked, but I was so happy. He's getting better, little by little. I believe that one day, he'll be completely healed." As she read, her voice trailed off, and she leaned her head on my shoulder and fell asleep. I looked down at her peaceful face, at the growing number of silver strands in her hair. An intense, overwhelming emotion, stronger than anything I had felt before, broke through the prison of my body. It was a complex mix of love, guilt, and gratitude. I felt my eyes begin to burn. And then a single hot, salty drop fell from the corner of my eye and landed on the back of my hand. A tear. How long had it been since I had cried? And then I felt it. From my chest came a clear, powerful thump. My heart, after a year of silence, had started beating again. I was back. I was no longer a walking corpse. I was alive. I leaned down and gently pressed a kiss to Sarah's forehead. "Mom," I whispered in a voice that was no longer hoarse. "Thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for creating a miracle with your love." We came home. When I walked out of the airport and into our neighborhood like a normal person, every neighbor who saw me stared in shock, their faces breaking into expressions of pure joy. Mr. Henderson was so excited he dropped his beagle's leash. Mike watched from the security booth, tears streaming down his face. Alex ran over and gave me a huge hug. "Ethan, you're better. You're really better." Sarah stood beside me, smiling more brightly than anyone. Life, finally, had returned to the way it was supposed to be. I found a job and settled into a 9-to-5 routine. After news of my miraculous recovery spread, Carol was never seen or heard from again. I did, however, have a few lingering side effects. For instance, I still disliked garlic, and my taste in food had become peculiar. One day, I came home from work to find Sarah busy in the kitchen. "Ethan, you're back. Wash up for dinner. I made your favorite." I walked to the dining table and saw the main dish, a steaming, fragrant bowl of spicy fried brains. I looked at the dish, simmering in its chilly oil, then at my mother's expectant face, and I smiled. "Mom," I said, "my favorite has always been you." The end.